Hello there, I'm Leo Waldrop for Kit Guru, and this case is the Corsair Carbide 600, specifically a 600C for clear, because the side panel is this enormous great big window which is plastic, and it sits on these two hinge pins and has a latch at the front. Easy to lift on, easy to lift off. I've taken it off because otherwise it'll reflect like crazy in the lights. There's also a Corsair Carbide 600Q for quiet, which is a solid panel and lots of sound deadening material. C for clear, Q for quiet, both cases the same price, 1 penny under £120. You may be wondering, why is it you've got the back of the case pointing at you, and yet over here we have quite clearly got the main compartment? And that's because, depending on how you want to look at this thing, it's either upside down, back to front, or inside out. They've inverted the whole caboose, which means that the power supply is at the top. I've got my radiator at the bottom, and it all gets a little bit confusing. Corsair's reason for doing this is airflow, and in a sense it's a logical way of doing things. We've seen something similar from Silverstone before, and they had two socking great big fans at the bottom, and like the entire case of the chimney, and the air went up rather than trying to go through. Hot air, as we know, rises. So this is a peculiar idea. It's not a bonkers idea. The question is, does it work? The short answer is yes, it does. Having said that, in recent times, I've seen an awful lot of cases that cool very well, depending on what hardware you put in them. You can load them up with a load of graphics cards, really toasty processor, as long as you decent liquid cooler, even actually a decent air cooler. Shift the air through, and generally speaking, I'm not going to say any case will do the trick, that's not true, but a decent case will do the trick. This is a decent case, but there is, without a shadow of a doubt, a lot of styling going on here. So I'm just going to turn that just so we can see what's going on with all the glorious illumination. Now, one of the consequences of this upside down, inside out thing, apart from anything else, is my graphics card is upside down, therefore the logo on it, the illuminated logo, is upside down, which actually made me wonder, should I, when I put the Corsair H110i GT liquid cooler on the fella, should I have actually put the heatsink upside down so the lights all matched? I mean, it starts to make you wonder. Let's rattle through the spec briefly. So I've got an Asus Sabertooth X79 motherboard. I've got a Core i7 4820K in there. I've got a GeForce GTX 980 with 4GB of memory. I've got the Corsair, as I say, liquid cooler H110i GT. I've got a Seasonic Platinum 520 fanless power supply hiding in this compartment up here, completely out of sight at the moment until we come to the back. And then here at the front, we've got two 140 fans, and here we have a 140 fan. They're supplied with the case. And then these are the two fans, which are for the liquid cooler. Obvious features, we've got here a little door which opens to reveal two optical drive bays. It's quite a cutesy sort of thing where it cantilevers out the hinges. Airflow from the front is through these vents at the side. So actually the front therefore looks very solid. If you want to get to the air filter behind this whole panel, you have to unclip the front, which is not exactly laborious, but you have to kind of get your thumbs in there and do it. You can, if you wish, remove the top in the same way. That's even more laborious. The gaps are very tight, but you can get in there and do it. We've got an air filter on the bottom, air filter on the front. So access to the bottom, easy peasy. Well, I say easy peasy once it's all disconnected, easy peasy. Lay it down, drag it out, or I suppose reach under and do it. Yeah, I can just about do that. And at the front, you have to say pull off the front panel to get in there. One small niggle I had with this case, because of the nature of all being upside down, is USB, networking, all those things. We kind of reach around the back and plug them in by feel. Not good, because of course they're the wrong way around. As we know, the USB at the moment, that's a pain in the neck. When it goes to the Type-C reversible, doesn't matter. Right now, a little bit awkward. Anyway, that's what it looks like built. I'm just going to yank the power cord and get rid of the power cord there, and take off the back panel so we can see what it all looks like. There goes one of the screws, and off it comes. Now, I'm going to say that in the main compartment, it looks tidy. it do. There's a lot of fans going on in there. There's a reasonable amount of hardware. It looks tidy. The back, it wouldn't be exactly fair to say that it's a nightmare. That's a little harsh. It's certainly busy. And a lot of the reason is to do with the upside down nature of the thing, but it's also because they've got a lot of drive bays. What you've got is 3 2.5-inch bays there. 1, 2, 3. I've used this one here. 1, 2, 3 across. Then above we got 2, 2.5, 3.5. So let's just pull out one of these caddies, like so. Comes out. Now the fact is that the cables have to go somewhere, and they're basically going across the drive bays. There's not really a lot you can do about that. If you happen to have loaded your case up with a bunch of drives, I suspect that's going to cause you problems. Cable routing does get a little bit tricky. Also, the motherboard cutout is huge, absolutely vast, which is a good thing. But of course, it means that if you've got a load of drive bays that are packed with drives and you've got a great big gap in the middle of your motherboard tray, you actually don't have a lot of places to route cables, because you don't really want to sort of take them back on motherboards and so on. There are some tie-down points, but not that many. I think I counted 6 or so. Let's be generous and call it 8. Not that many. You can shove cables here and there. So up in the power supply compartment at the top, for example, you can sort of push a few cables away. This whole top section is essentially shrouded in secret, but you can see the difference. From the back, it looks a bit messy, and you've got a compartment. From the front, glorious, lovely, shroudy sort of thing with the Corsair logo on it. Really neat and tidy. And of course, if you've got the windowed panel, as I have, you do want the... I mean, it's an enormous window, absolutely huge. You do obviously want the contents of your main compartment to be as tidy as possible. So you have to work at it, and that really basically means everything gets shoved around the back, gets a bit tricky. So, as I say, the 2 fans at the front here, the 1 fan at the rear of the stock. What I put in the bottom is the aftermarket cooling. Clearly, if I had put an air cooler on the processor, then this would be free at the bottom, which wouldn't actually really give you much. If you have an air cooler there, then the air is flowing through in the usual style, in which case you kind of wonder, well, all you've really achieved is you put the power supply at the top. Power supplies can be quite toasty things, but if you've got a really efficient power supply, it's not so bad. I mean, when you've got 1,000 watts sort of 80% efficient, yeah, that's a lot of heat, no two ways about it, in which case you want to do something about it. In which case, very often it's at the bottom and it kicks the heat out the back. So you don't want to toast your computer with a power supply that's baking it. Mounting the power supply in the roof does have a certain sense to it, a certain neatness. But it's not neat in the way of, look at all those cables. So if we look at the case from this point of view, absolutely glorious. Look at it from the back, not so great. One thing I particularly liked was up here we have a switch with a 3-way fan controller. 3 speeds for 3 fans. The 3 fans are supplied, so you basically hook them in the back. You have to do it yourself, however, which is not ideal, but it does work. But I kind of like if it was built in and all hooked up at the factory, but you have to do it yourself. It works. The case is very wide. It's about 30mm wide in the typical case, and that does give you a huge amount of space at the back, which is great for things like SATA connections, because that SATA cable there is edge or side on, and generally speaking, with a regular case, you wouldn't be able to get the panel on. In this instance, you can. That's good. And that is pretty much that. There's a learning process to building your PC into this case because everything's the wrong way round, but it does work. I suffered a little working out what was going where. Once you crack it, you're good. The business about it looks peculiar because your logos aren't the same way up, aren't the right way up. What can you do about it? I mean, it just is what it is. Getting used to USB connections being the wrong way around, let's face it, I suppose in a sense you could argue we get it all wrong all the time anyway. Correct them by turning the wrong way up. It might actually make our lives easier, who knows. Pricing, for what you're getting, the price seems fair. Corsair always charges top dollar. They charge a premium. The build quality is good. The thinking behind inverting the PC, I'm not actually so sure about that. I mean, it works, but then a PC the correct way up works. I'm not really quite clear what you're getting from this, apart from moving a power supply to the top. And I'm not absolutely clear it's worth completely re-engineering your PC to achieve that. But cosmetically, it does inside there look good, as long as you obviously just ignore that GTX logo, because I mean, that's actually starting to offend me now. But there we have it. So this is the Corsair Carbide 600C, also available in Q. I'm Leo Wood for Kit Guru.